The crypto market is going down again today after Bitcoin has come back down to this crucial level of support, the previous level which we rejected at back in January when Trump won the election and was inaugurated on January 20th. It's coming back down to that level again. Let's see how it reacts to this level. Are we going to get a bounce, or is it going to go back down and potentially double bottom at this wick here at 108.7? Or enter this golden pocket region, which I believe could be a potential low. That golden pocket region, just makes sense that maybe we wick down there, then gather the liquidity, and then we start bouncing. So I'm going to discuss that. I'm going to discuss Ethereum. We're going to look into two specific altcoins, which I think have some major things coming up very, very soon. I think they're going to pump a ton, and a whole lot more in today's video. So if that sounds interesting, please make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well if you're new, and join my free Telegram group linked down below for daily updates. So over $300 million of long positions were just liquidated from the market in the past 24 hours. And this market is entirely controlled by the longs and the shorts right now. And the market makers are just constantly getting people screwed. And that is why I recommend you set stop losses and you don't over leverage in this current market. I personally have a long position open still. It's come right back down to almost my entry point. I'm in a very small amount of profit, but you can see I'm relatively sensible. I've got a 5x leverage and I've got a stop loss. Yeah, I could lose money on it, but you could lose money on anything in crypto, right? And leverage for me, if you know what you're doing, is a great way to make money. But as I always say, you need to know what you're doing. And if you do want to trial out using leverage or just using spot, right, you can use the best exchange link down below and make sure you use my link to sign up. The S&P 500 also just reached an all-time high at 6,500. So while crypto is kind of going sideways, the stock market is moving up. The S&P 500 is growing. And, the Russell 2000 was doing pretty well as well. And for those who don't know, the Russell 2000 is the top 2,000 companies. So it's much more small cap weighted as opposed to the S&P 500, which is merely the top 500 companies. So the S&P is extremely weighted by the Mag 7, whereas the Russell 2000, it gives you a broader market picture of all businesses in the US, right? Because there's 2,000 of them. And it usually does very well when there's anticipations of rate cuts. And according to Fed Waller, you can see the time has come to move policy to a more neutral stance. It would support a 25 basis point cut at the Fed's September meeting. Waller says he anticipates additional rate cuts over the next 3 to 6 months, but he doesn't believe a bigger September cut is needed unless an August jobs report shows substantial weakening. So it's going to be very interesting here to see what goes on with the rate cut situation, because the markets right now are pricing in 25 basis points in cuts, and markets in general have been going relatively risk on into that event. Not necessarily as risk on as some people would be hoping for, but if there's any indication here of a 50 basis point rate cut, I think that markets will go even more risk on. You'll see the Russell 2000 is still below its highs of 2021 and 2024. Did a nice double top there. If you're a trader, you could have capitalized on that very nicely. But you can see this move is much more impulsive than the previous moves. This is a very quick move to the upside. And this is just evidence that markets are going risk on in anticipation of rate cuts. We've got a buy signal there on the Russell 2000. So it is officially now, looking like it's heading into an uptrend. And that makes sense, especially considering the fact that we're getting rate cuts in the coming months. So when it comes to Bitcoin, 109K is this massive level. You can see that we're just hovering over it right now. It's very possible just to liquidate some longs, we could come down to the golden pocket, kind of get a flush out wick, and then really see a bounce to the upside. That's very, very possible in my mind. And that also coincides with the first high here. And we know Bitcoin loves to come down to previous all-time highs. It could just come down to the first high, not the second one. It would obviously pass the second one, come down below it. But, it's somewhere between these two levels for me. Bitcoin is going to find a bottom here. Yes, it could maybe come down to like 105K. People are pointing at a macro fib level. They're going from the low here to the high here. And they're essentially saying, right, We've got a 105k fib level here at the 0.382. So they're thinking that could be the potential bottom. Look, who knows, right? But the reality is Bitcoin is currently in a position when you zoom out that looks healthy. We're putting in higher lows, and we have the Gaussian channel currently sat around 94k on the weekly. So we definitely have room to come down. The problem is, many would say time is not on our side. So if we were to come down to this Gaussian channel and then get a bounce, we're heading into 2026. Many people suggest 2026 you can write off because of the crypto 4-year cycle. Now, I'm not going to say it's completely impossible that we top out in 2026. I've said, I'm not going to rule out things completely. I'm not going to point blank rule something out. But I think we have enough time in the next few months, probably even in the next few weeks, to be quite frank with you, for Bitcoin to go to 130k, which has always been my target for Bitcoin to go to. My upper target since day one, if you would have asked me back when Bitcoin was at 15k, I always said my upper target was 130. My lower target was more like 120, 115, something like that. So honestly, looking back, if you would have asked people when Bitcoin was back at 15k, in 2 years, in 3 years, Bitcoin will be at 130, they would have shook your hand and happily agreed to that. So honestly, I think 130 is a very reasonable level for Bitcoin. When we look at the fibs 100% point towards around that 130 region. You can see we've got a 1.618 at 131. We've got a 1.5 at 127. Somewhere in that region, I think, is going to be hit probably in the next few weeks. Even though we have come down to 109, I still think we can gather a lot of momentum here and push through. And especially with the altcoins are gonna pump a lot more than Bitcoin in the next few weeks, in my view. Now, Bitcoin dominance is getting a little bit of a bounce here on the massive support level that I've been targeting. So that is something to just be a little bit aware of. We have a major level of support on Bitcoin dominance. It is possible we come up to the golden pocket and then we fall back down. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. We could just come straight back down. This is really, really a difficult one to predict. But we are on major support on Bitcoin dominance, so it's not a massive shock that we're holding this level pretty strong here. Now, to me, all the liquidity on Bitcoin is to the upside. There's a massive CME gap at 117k. I think it's very possible we could run up to that level pretty much imminently here once we find a low and we bottom, and we can push up to 117k very, very soon after, in my view. So there could be some long position opportunities here on Blowfin. As I say, I've got a long on Fartcoin, but I might be opening some new long positions depending on how Bitcoin reacts to this 108, 109k support level. Now, when it comes to Ethereum is using that 382 as support, as I mentioned in one of my last videos. And Ethereum's structure does look a lot better than Bitcoin. It really looks amazing, actually, when you look at it. The level of higher lows it's putting in. The only issue is when you zoom out, you can see that we're at a macro level of resistance, or we just rejected rather at a macro level of resistance. And many people said that would not happen, but it is happening. Ethereum just made a move from 1.3k all the way up to 5k. People aren't expecting somewhat of a retracement. Like, are people out of their minds? You've got to have some form of a retracement, right? Even if it's just 10%, 20%, you're going to have little retracements along the way. As you can see, it's done already. We went up to 2.8k, then we came back down to 2.1k. Then we went up to 3.9k, then we came back down to 3.3k. Ethereum has retracements, guys. It's not up only, so don't freak out. And when I'm looking at this chart, it is possible to me that Ethereum could come down even lower. It could. I mean, it's overbought on the RSIs on the daily. Looks right now like it might be losing that 382 level of 4.3k. It's very, very possible Ethereum could come down as low as 4k again and basically do a resistance support flip. 4k was previously major resistance. We all know that. It's one of the biggest resistance levels we've ever seen on a chart. It's very possible Ethereum could come back down, do a resistance support flip, put in a double bottom as well, because it's already done that so far, and then get a bounce. It's possible. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm just saying it's something to keep in mind, especially if we lose this 382 level. Now, one major thing that I'm looking at with Ethereum is the level of shorts that are opening up. There would be over 3 billion in shorts liquidated if Ethereum was to hit 5k. So It is something to keep in mind that there's a ton of people shorting Ethereum now, thinking and hoping that it will go down to 4K. If it gets some form of a bounce here, there's going to be a ton of liquidations, especially if we get to 5K. You're going to see a mass liquidation event, probably bringing Ethereum close to 6K. Now, in a moment, I'm going to talk about two altcoins that I'm particularly looking at right now. But before I do, just want to talk quickly about my Blowfin link down below. Strongly recommend you guys get in on that link and start trading using Blowfin, which is the best exchange. It's non-KYC as well, so anyone across the world can use it. And if you sign up using my link, you'll get major bonuses, potentially up to a Rolex watch in bonuses. The first altcoin I want to discuss is none other than Ondo. I just recently made a video on Ondo on my second channel. Make sure you are subscribed to that. It's Crypto Archie Plus. And Ondo right now is a great buy in my opinion. It's below $1. I've consistently said whenever Ondo is below $1, you probably want to start stacking it. And right now it's sat at 90 cents. And they've got a major thing coming. They've got the Ondo US markets, which essentially is tokenizing the entire US stock market, including single stocks and ETFs. And you're going to be able to buy those on-chain through what Ondo are doing. So Ondo's a great buy here. Structurally as well, I think it looks okay. It's been going sideways for a very long period of time. I think it's going to have like an XRP type of move and moonshot to the upside at some point in the coming weeks. And the second coin is Say. They just recently announced that they are getting an ETF. It says here, 21 shares files S1 with SEC to issue a Say ETF. So it's in the works now, an ETF for Say. We know ETFs are one of the biggest things that have been driving liquidity into both Bitcoin and Ethereum. And once other coins start getting ETFs, such as Say, it's going to be incredibly bullish for those as well, because you're onboarding all of TradFi into DeFi essentially. And Say is the best DeFi project in my opinion. It is a layer 1 built for DeFi, and they are a layer 1 which stablecoins have considered building on. So it ties into a ton of narratives. It's an EVM layer 1, extremely fast. And there's a major thing on the Say chart, okay? Major thing. I put out some samples here of when I plan to sell. Those are just samples. Don't take those literally. But there's a major level of resistance on the Say chart. If you go from the highs here, not that one, you go from here, you can see every single time Say has come into contact with this level, it is literally rejected every single time. We've got one example here, another example here, and then another few examples. 1, 2, yeah. So basically every time Say hits this level, it rejects, and we're getting so close to it with this compression here, it's going to push out eventually. Like, all it needs to do really is get above 32 cents on a weekly close. This thing then flips into an uptrend from being in a downtrend, and that's where I start to consider potentially opening up some longs on Say. Long term, I'm targeting between $1 and $2. I think the ETF will help that. But even without an ETF, it's still an incredibly bullish project with a lot going on. Anyway, guys, that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for these daily crypto updates. Also, check out the VIP group, link down below. People have been printing in this group the past few weeks. We made a 24x on Troll. Basically, all the coins I talk about on the channel, the VIPs got early and they're up massive on. So if you want to be up massive on a ton of coins, check out this group. There's also a 24/7 active Discord community where I'm in there all the time, texting the members, going on voice chats, doing VIP live streams, reviewing your portfolios, all of that type of stuff. So check all of that out down below. There's also a free option where you can book a call with one of my representatives. And even if you're interested in the group, you can talk to him about it and he'll let you know a little bit more about the group. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.